morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Wednesday morning. Back to being the number one greatest dad and back in action. Gordo, the number two, is here. What's happening?
Hey, I've got my you can't even see it. I'm on the road. It's my White Sox mug, but it's the one where like it's chrome on chrome, so you can't tell I'm a White Sox fan. I like to keep it hidden, at least especially after this.
I was about to give you props and say that's the true fan still going around with the White Sox thing, and then you said that.
Yeah. I've got a black one with like the white emblem, and that one's in the closet for a couple of years, I think. We'll stick with the chrome on chrome.
You know, it's funny because I do say that sometimes, like, you know, like I'll see somebody wearing so I mean, I'll wear it, you know, even the 49ers suck, I'll wear it. But I'll be honest, like it would be less than I would normally wear it. But then, like, you know, like 49ers will beat Packers in the playoffs or something like that. And then you go out the next day, there's a guy going around with the Packers gear. I was like, bro, you should probably put that away for at least a week or two. Because your season is done now, and then you can just come back again. But
yeah.
And I have to warn everybody before we get going over here, because we have a very, very salty John entering the podcast this morning. Already in the pre-show, he showed that, you know, it's that time of month for John. What's happening, man?
God damn, that time of month. You know, I'm usually happier this portion of the year, honestly. I like it when it gets colder. And I told Gordo a few months ago, like, bro, I grew up in a country that had rain and heat. That was everything. Anything that's different from that variation, I'll take wholeheartedly. And I'm really happy at this time of the year, so.
Ugh, really? I'm the opposite, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
I get seasonal depression big time, but I think that's just a Midwest thing.
I think so, right? I mean, it just becomes. I mean, I'll be honest though. Like, you know, I know we have listeners like across the pond. When I was in, I mean, I didn't know what the hell was coming my way, I guess. But when I was, you know, obviously I grew up in Istanbul. But I started, you know, I graduated high school in Istanbul. Then I went to London for college. And dude, it was really depressing. Like that gets old fast, and you don't realize that until you kind of live in it. Like it's one thing to go there for like 2-3 weeks or whatever for a summer or something like that. But yeah, when you like, you know, wake up every morning and it's gray and that's not something that you're used to. And then, you know, if you ever lived in London, England, it's a lot of gray. It's awesome when it's sunny. And you know what's funny? I don't know, like Gord, obviously you've been there, but you know, I feel like especially over there, people appreciated sunshine more. Oh, yeah. I felt this is a Mediterranean guy coming over there. Everybody was like, I always thought like English people are like over polite anyway, but everybody was like so freaking happy and even nicer on sunny days because it was really like appreciated over there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a survival technique. I mean, look, go to the East. There's a reason, and John will tell you there's a reason the East Coast people are so hard because they have to deal with those winters all the time. You can't be a soft person and live out there.
Is it worse than here though? I mean, we got it pretty bad here, won't we?
Yeah, I guess.
I have a cousin who lives in London. When he went here during like the peak of winter, he said, "Oh, this is nothing compared to what we do. What we got over there in terms of cold." I'm like, you know what? I'll take your word for it. Because there are tiers. And the Northeast cold apparently is just kind of like mid-tier. If you're comparing it with like, you know, some parts of Western Europe, like England or something. So I'll take his word for it.
And that kind of whole lot of snow.
It wasn't cold, right?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Like I didn't think like England was like literally like cold.
No, I'm talking about. I thought you meant like East Coast. Why those people are so angry? Like that.
Oh,
like East
like
Coast
John?
is cold. Yeah, because they have bad winters.
First of all, I'm
people
not
from England are just pessimistic.
I'm not angry because of the weather.
Like, the reason Cersei and myself are so pessimistic, right? Because like you just like you're gonna wake up today may be sunny, but tomorrow's gonna be fucking gray again. Guarantee it. So it's like where you live says a lot about who you are, and it kind of dictates your emotions. I feel like
clarifying as well. I'm not angry because of the weather. Just putting that out there.
But you weren't born East Coast, so you're
right.
Yeah, you have the nice you had sunshine for a lot more than
so this is Newcastle and further up north is freezing, which see, like I was like usually like the school was in London, so I was mostly in London. But yeah, I mean I remember like they had like a ridiculous snowstorm we actually went, my brother and I, we were literally just talking about this a couple of weeks ago on WhatsApp, about we went to a game, England versus Cameroon, like a friendly. And I have not been so cold like in my life. But then again, I had not been to Chicago yet. But we were like literally shaking, and there were these dudes behind us, no shirts. God knows how much they had to drink, but they had like no shirt. It was freezing, and they had so much snow that the city pretty much shut down afterwards. But they were like, "Hey, I mean," and they didn't have any
Shut down.
dude, like it shut down. I at the time I was like, holy cow, this is a lot of snow. But now that I'm in Chicago, it was probably a dusting. But I mean, it snowed enough that when the city pretty much shut down, and I remember the mayor coming out and saying, "Hey, this happens like once every 20 years. We're not gonna buy plows, so we can use it like once every 20 years." They were like, "It is the way it is," kind of a thing. But yeah, because I mean, Istanbul gets snow and stuff, but it never gets. I remember like when we went back home with Angie. It was winter and it was snowing, but it's like flurries. What we would consider over here a mild day, Gordo. Like, it's probably like 50s or something. And my mom was like, "Make sure you guys layer up. It's snowing out there." We're like, "It's actually kind of nice." We have like a wind shirt on and shit like that. Brits, especially in the south, don't compare with snow and ice. Yeah. And Blake is with us. Good morning, everybody. A lot to talk about, actually. A lot of stuff happening. For once every 20 years to once every 20 days. Unfortunately, yes. I did not believe, I think I've told the story before, but I did not believe how cold it was when they told me how cold it was until I transferred from Celsius to Fahrenheit, or actually from Fahrenheit to Celsius. And I was like, holy mother of God. Okay, almost a third of the way in. I'm going to put this up there, and God knows where this is going to go. So we were talking about, this is a post about who has been your Anfield player of the season. I feel like this is a good topic for this morning. I got a couple of like other things. I was really hoping we'd be talking about contract extensions, what have you.
Same.
But doesn't look like it yet. So we'll talk about this. MVP of the season. Is there any point in going to John over here? But maybe he's salty. He'll take it out on Gravenberg. Who's the MVP of the season so far? Almost a third way in.
Oh, are we going to me or are we going to Gordon?
We're going to you.
Oh, we're going to me.
Just getting it out of the way. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we're getting out. Yeah, of course. I mean, like it's if we're talking about performance relative to how we expected his season was going to go, it's immediately Gravenberg, but obviously trying to play do a left field kind of deal here. I feel like Gally made a great point there about how Mo and by extension Van Dijk kind of their performances this year, we're not even acknowledging them as a position. Like obviously, some people have Konate, some people have Van Dijk, but then the standards that Mo and Virgil have set throughout the years, and we're just going like, oh yeah, this is just how it is. Yeah. But this how it is like literally MVP level for any other club is just insane. So yeah, I'd say Gravenberg, and not to make it about him the entire show, but with a caveat. Gravenberg has been great, but the reason why we're here right now is the steadiness of those two, Big Verge and Salah, I would say.
Interesting, because I was thinking the same thing in terms of like Gravenberg. We probably, a lot of people already in the comments are saying Gravenberg too. Maybe Gordo, it is because of expectations versus what we got at the end. And I think the biggest compliment I can give Gravenberg is, I think I was telling Matush this on Monday, while I was watching the game, and we're like, oh man, like he's having a good game, blah, blah, blah. Like you're thinking in your head. And I did not say that for Gravenberg because he was having like an average Gravenberg day. And it was really, it's almost like when we used to talk about, we like a man of the match, and we would never mention Van Dijk because by default, he was going to be great kind of a thing. I think the biggest compliment we can give Gravenberg is the fact that we're kind of almost like gotten accustomed to an above average performance there.
Yeah. Even his bad days are good comparatively to other teams, and even his performance last season. But yeah, I think out of those four, it's definitely a case of like who shocked you the most, and that's why I think, and a lot of people in the comments are saying the same thing with Konate being second, because the difference with like Konate and Gravenberg is I didn't know that this Gravenberg existed. Right, we had no idea. This is like we dusted him off, we took him off the top shelf, and now he's playing well again. And Konate, we've seen this level of dominance from him. It's been hit and miss last season, but we saw it for France. So we kind of we're we've got what we know we had with Konate, which is probably why he's second. But to John's point, and obviously John was mirroring Galley, but we're not in the position we are in without Salah scoring the goals and Virgil van Dijk being a rock at the back. So I'm gonna have to go with Mo Salah, because you know how many people, myself included, would give not just their left nut but both nuts to have a bad Mo Salah season. Mm-hmm. Like a bad Mo Salah season is, there's more than a third of the strikers in the Premier League would kill for a rough Mo Salah year.
Gunners with us. Is the Dutch manager getting the best out of his Dutch players, and so it carries over to the team? That's a good point. There's a lot made out of this, like the language and stuff like that. Do you buy that, John? I'm kind of like in the like I don't know if that makes of a difference, but maybe knowing him from Ajax and knowing what he can do gives him more belief in what he can do. He's not looking at recent history. He can kind of look at the past.
Right, and I think the language thing, I brought it up a few months ago, but then Sergi made a great point. Pep Lijnders is Dutch, right? And he basically runs the sessions back then, so that doesn't make any difference. It's, for me...
Sergi would blame Pep for everything, so there's that, yeah.
Well, purely, I feel like it's a stylistic thing. With Klopp, it's always been that 4-3-3. It's always been that 3 in the midfield where it's not as clear-cut. For example, I understand... I mean, it's no excuse for his kind of off and on play last year, right? But I understand the confusion that Gravenberch had being placed on that right or left side of that midfield 3 under Klopp. Because listen, there are moments where you got to move forward, but then there are moments you got to track back as well. It is confusing for a first time player, and again, completely understandable. But at the end of the day, it's not going to get you your name in the team sheet every single game. Whereas right now, whereas you got 2 there for that double pivot, and you got someone backing you up in Alexis McAllister or Curtis Jones or whoever, it's much better. And the fact that that's always the role he's played, whether it's Ajax or in the Dutch team, so it helps him massively. And for the other Dutch guy, Cody Gakpo, it's just a matter of playing him in his best position, right? Nothing really rocket science about it. Like, he's a left winger. He's best cutting into his right foot. So language, I thought it was a factor, but not really. It's more of just a better fit for the style.
Mitur says, argue for Konate. Take out Konate for Kwanzaa this year so far. I don't think we have the same defensive success. I think this goes back to what we consider MVP or whatever, right? So this is referred to in the tweet as the player of the season. Who has been your player of the season? Are you picking somebody who is the most... Like, because I think if we do that, you're automatically going to do Van Dijk or... Oh, shit.
What's going on?
Oh, never mind. Sorry, I thought
there was a contract extension announcement or something. Like,
yeah, it's like the way that you were like, oh.
Yeah, like, whoa.
Sorry, I didn't mean to tease like that, but no, I mean, I feel like, if you do the most valuable, I think automatically it will be Van Dijk or Mo, because I think if you take one of them out, the cards, the house collapses kind of a deal. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of overall performances, if you look at that, I think Mateusz is right, John. You can make a case for Konate because he has been, and bear in mind, he started the season on the bench, only lasted a half, but he started on the bench.
I go back to what Gordo said. It's like what the idea of the idea of Konate that we had here, and the idea of Konate might have been like an over expectation because we saw, like, as good as he is, he has his flaws last year, especially towards the end. Like after that that Atalanta game, he never looked the same, right? But then now this is the Konate we have, in mind, and he's living up to that. So I don't know. Like, listen, it's a glaring stat that's comparing to if we're comparing this season to last year, how many goals have we conceded in the Premier League? Right? Like, and if we're talking about who contributed most to that, who made the most difference to that absolute, like, 180, you're going to look at Van Dijk and Konate. So I get the Konate argument.
And do we, like, what do we give that to, I guess? Do we give that to those performances, or do we just give it to the setup overall, and you don't have, the backs bombing up top? I'm not, like, discrediting the fact that those two's performances are a huge factor of it, but which is the biggest factor for you, Gordo? The fact that, you have 2 center backs on really, really good form, or you have a system that's not really throwing them under the bus left and right either.
Yeah, it's the first that actually leads to. Well, sorry, it's the second that leads to the first, right? It's they're not under so much pressure, and the more, the less times that you have to be put under the cosh, and you perform well when you are, then your confidence boosts. So you're basically feeding into the success, which is, success breeds success. It's when you're in a good mood, when the team's playing and everybody's clicking, then you're just going to have a better performance because you're going out there more confident. So I think the system was set up correctly, and now they're feeding off of the success and becoming, even better.
So, I mean, we did not even talk about this guy a lot, who's having a ridiculous season. Mo Salah over here. You're looking at his numbers. This is among like all-time top scorers and stuff. And I mean, it is really impressive. Obviously, I don't want to even get into that conversation, but there's a lot of like pay the man his money bullshit's going on, which I do agree with. If money is the issue, I don't think money is the sole issue over here. But isn't it odd that we're not kind of throwing him in there? I know, John, you were saying it's almost like semi taken for granted, but everything seems to be going through him right now. In the past, you could say, oh, his goals are carrying the team and stuff, but it's goals, assists, like everything he does overall. And I'll be honest, like I've thought he had some poor games. There were a lot of people. What was that? Like week 5, week 6, people were like, well, maybe he's aging. That's why they're not giving him the contract and stuff like that. So is it just a matter of like overall form that we're kind of taking on for granted at this point?
Yeah, it's just the up and downs. I feel someday you could have a bad game, but then listen, when so far this run of form, it's coincided with the big games as well. Like people say that their guy is a big game player. I think we can say that our guy is legitimately a big game player in Mo Salah. Like goals against Chelsea, assist against Aston Villa, goal against Brighton, against Leverkusen as well. He was a freaking menace. So if there is a time, like we'll take Mo kind of taking his foot off the gas against, all due respect, the Crystal Palaces, the Wolves and all that. But if he shows up against the Chelseas, the Arsenals, all that, Man City, listen, we'll take that all day long, regardless of, whether he scores or not in those other games that I mentioned. So it's just a top class player. I think I shouldn't really go into much more. It's just a top class player that shows up when you need him the most. How FSG or management would think that would translate into a potential extension is not up to us, because obviously there's a lot of rhetoric that goes into that. But in terms of us fans, that's all we want, right? Big game. We want our players to turn up. He turned up. So listen, it's natural for the contract extension shouts to come up.
I think he has like the mindset for that, Gordo, right? I mean, anytime you listen to him, he kind of gets geared up for all those things and like these numbers and stuff. I'm sure he can recite this chart to you if you just ask him. He already knows who's where and where he's at and stuff like that. He's that kind of a dude. I mean, those athletes don't come around often where they're kind of like, so driven by themselves. They don't need like locker room material, like newspaper clips and shit like that, because they're so like driven themselves. And I guess the biggest thing for me about like when we talk about extension and stuff like that is he has we talked about this with Van Dijk a lot as he ages kind of thing. I feel like he's been able to adjust his game a lot and almost sometimes plays what he contributes is almost like an attacking midfielder as opposed to the winger that we had 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, he's digging in. He's going to collect the ball instead of looking for the ball over the top. I've seen him a lot more come into space, looking to get it with his back to goal and turn and run, which we haven't really seen. He's been one of those just, I don't want to say cherry pickers, but like he would love the ball over the top to sprint with the defender. I think maybe it's, he's getting older. He doesn't have the legs that he used to have, and he realized that he can't beat a lot of players on the sprint, especially with now like the wingbacks are becoming faster and more physical. So he's got to come in deeper to look for the ball to start the plays off. But, he's one of those guys in the locker room, like you said, he just comes and shows up, and then he does his business and goes home, and everyone's like, wow, that was amazing. And good leaders will turn to the young kids and go, just watch him. Like, I'll be the captain, but watch what he does. Watch how he takes care of himself. I mean, he was the player that enacted the no phones at the coffee bar, the new coffee bar that they put up in the training facility. he enacted. He told everyone like, no phones here. We're just gonna have a conversation. That's like his mentality of like, this is work. Like, put your phones away. Stop scrolling Instagram. We're at work. We're doing like his mind is solely focused on one thing. And yeah, he probably can recite this chart because if you're poor like me and you can't afford the monthly online subscriptions to beat on the 4 or 5 year olds that Timuchin does at night on FIFA, you have.
I'm not clipping this. That is wild out of context.
4 or 5. Teens and early teens. Okay,
no,
4 or 5. Come on.
That is wild out of context. I'm not clipping this.
You play the computer. There's only so many levels that the computer can go up, right? You get up to legendary, and then at that point in your season, when your team is good, then like you're literally like him. It's probably like, all right, I need to score in like before the 60th minute, or I'm gonna lose my percentage points here. So like, because you can see when he gets pulled without a goal. It's always he throws his hands up like that.
Yeah.
He knows, he knows in his head, all right, I was on here for 67 minutes without a goal or an assist. That means my percentage point is now, 0.61 a game instead of 0.67.
I mean, I love that about him. I agree. I mean, Sergi says he's also a great influence to the younger players coming into the first team. Exactly what like Gordo is saying. But oh god, BX Gunner is gonna make Sergi very upset because Salas continue to grow and thrive after 30. Look where Mane is at. Sergi, and tell us, because Sergi misses Mane almost daily for some reason.
He hasn't said it that much today. I mean, this season, to be fair, which is great, right? It means Diaz and Gakpo are doing.
He was just saying it the other day, like out of the blue too. Yeah, like not even a match day or anything. He was just like
he said it last night too.
He said it last night. Yeah, as he was curling up next to his wife. It's Mane.
It's that meme that's like he's probably thinking about other women, and he's over there, and he's like, I wonder if Mane would come back for free.
Right. Yeah, I'd take him, man. Like if we're chasing a game, we need someone to stretch the game. I'd take Mane.
Sergeant says it's Linder's fault that Mane has declined after leaving. So yeah, I kind of figured that was where we're gonna go. Let me zoom in on this so we can kind of see it a bit better. But we kind of talked about this before. Let's go end of this season. Not knowing the future and me not in the mood about having another contract conversation here. But where does he end at the end of the season, Gordo?
Man, I'd love to say Aguero, but realistically, I think for goals, he's probably going to be between Lampard. He's going to put daylight between him and Lampard, but I don't think he's going to reach Aguero by the end of the season for goals.
Damn. Look at Sergi's comment there.
Damn.
That would be
it's like California weather. He's all happy.
Look, if he catches Aguero, Cole's only 3 more. Him in his mind would be like, all I need is a hat trick in a game. I'll get
I'm putting him right under between Aguero and Lampard as well. Where are you putting him there, John?
Probably the same. Anything higher, we're definitely winning the league by 18 points again.
Yeah.
Jeez. What is it now? Match week 11, right? Match week 12 when we come back. So there's sorry, I'm stupid with math. 27 games to go, right? And if he gets to Cole, that's 23. Right? That is insane.
Yeah.
And
well, then his per 90 would go up. His per 90 would go up to 7.6 to 7.7. So he'd be right under Aguero there.
Right. And Kazi made a great point on the Discord the other time. Like our defensive record, I still kind of look at it from a club perspective that we will drop a goal or two here, but not in this setup, man. Like look at we've only conceded once, more than once against Arsenal. Right? Like, and completely avoidable.
Oh, you're making me do research and stuff.
Right? Like, we only conceded more than once against Arsenal in the league this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our loss against Forest was by 1 goal, and it was that screamer, right? By Hudson Odoi. So, Listen, man, like, I don't know. I mean, all this without a destroyer DM, right? Some people would say, like, we need a traditional...
Where's Saito when you need him?
Right. We need a traditional 6 in there. Like, I don't know, man. Like... Conceded 6 goals all year.
Now I'm going to ask this question then, John.
Yeah.
How many seasons knowing he's aging and all that kind of stuff, and maybe down the road, as he's aging, his role might be diminished. He might be protected more from himself, like taken out earlier, what have you.
Mhm.
How many seasons for him to catch Shearer? Can he catch Shearer?
Wait, what is that? That's
260.
260, right? Jeez.
100 more
You're a
goals.
young man. You need more zoomed in here. Here. I know
100
I
more
need it.
goals, and Shearer did it with just under 200 more appearances. So like a goal every other game and 200 more appearances, and he's got Shearer.
I would say, I don't know, man. Like, because he takes care of his body so well, Mo. Like, he couldn't apply traditional aging player dynamics to him, because look at how great in shape he is, right? So I'm still kind of looking at him how he would operate if he were at his peak or just after his peak. I would say around 4.5 seasons of top level play, maybe, or he can catch that number or surpass it.
How many seasons? I'm sorry.
For 3.5 to 4, I would say. I guess, yeah.
Okay, here's my thing.
I mean, assuming he's still like in the first team and all that shit, right?
He plays so different than Shearer, though.
I think here's my thing. I mean, maybe it's too early in the morning for me, but for math. But how is this making sense over here? Because I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, Shearer did it like he had 170 extra games, right? But at 0.3, that would only be like 60, 80 goals. So I'm like, how the hell does that happen? How is Shearer 0.15 if he scored 260 goals in 441 games?
That's assists. His goals is 0.61.
Ah, that's where I'm looking at the wrong one. There you go. See, it is too early for numbers. Okay. So 0.6. How many goals we're talking? 100 goals?
That's 96.
A goal every 2.5 games.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm not mathing this morning, guy.
Yeah, I'm not mathing this morning either. Somebody with a calculator crank this up.
Goal in every game. Just over a goal every game and a half. So if he had 100 more, you've got like 175 more goals if he had 100 more appearances.
So he would need, I mean, we're talking 4 seasons.
He would still be 100 appearances less than Alan Shearer, and he'd almost catch him.
And mind you, like we're like only a third of the way in for the season. We're thinking we're guessing he's gonna end up 180. So we're basically saying how many more seasons for him to get 80 goals ultimately is what we're saying. So yeah, three.
He's got 100 more goals in him this year. We win the league by an incredible margin.
It's Optimist Wednesday. So see, there you go. Somebody with a calculator. Around 32 goals a season for the next 3 seasons.
But 32 is the record, right? Or was the record, right? Like
it was. Haaland was what, 39?
Yeah.
Mind you, Haaland looked like after week 3 he was gonna like break that record by like he was gonna have like 150 goals or something like that. But
I love how we're talking about like breaking, or Salah having to break like or stay close to the record every year, and Alan is just like coming down and being steady. Like I just hope he stays injury free.
I'm like, I hope he gets 100 goals in 20 games.
I just hope he stays injured, which is, you know what, I respect it.
Let's talk about this.
Oh, before we go, Tim, like obviously you're saying we're a bit too positive, right? We talked about the most valuable player, and I don't want to play the bad guy here, but do you want to talk about who our most disappointing player is by far? Right? Like, because obviously we had the names, Gravenberch.
Yes, it is. Like, this is what I mean. He's salty this morning. He just wants to go off on somebody. So go ahead, buddy. Who are you going to hammer?
Who am I going to hammer?
We didn't have to go down the dark road, but
we didn't have to go this way, but I wanted to. I wanted to smoke.
Yeah, see, like he is salty. He's the kind of guy that's gonna go in the office and look for somebody to just get on his nerves so he can just let him have it. Like he's gonna find an intern that asks a stupid question. Is like, I told you this how many times?
Who do I have? A certain.
I thought you already had like somebody.
No, I do have one. I do have one. I'm just saying that to add suspense.
I was gonna say, yeah, he's a good actor.
Yeah,
he set himself up.
Right. It's gonna be Trent for me. It's got to be Trent. Like people are saying, defensively he's been great, but all I see is him doing the bare minimum out there. Am I wrong, Tim? Right. I know you're like Trent's.
Why are you picking on me? Like why?
I'm not picking on you.
I'll do my.
Okay. Fine. Fair enough. I mean, okay, my interpretation of people saying him doing his defensive work was just the bare minimum that you need to be doing at right back, defending that part of the pitch. Creatively, he's still great. Obviously, the numbers are reflecting that, but I just was disappointed in certain games the way he approached it, particularly the Arsenal game where people got on my ass for rating him a 3 out of 10. It's cherry picking, no doubt, in a season where it's been mostly positive, and and Trent has been good, but the fact that I know he could be better is what makes me choose him as my most disappointing player so far. I know he can get to that other level. Like I know he's probably just in gear 1, where I know he can shift to gear 3 on a dime. If that makes sense.
Okay, attitude, sure,
Right.
but we've been praising him for like he actually looks like he's defending. Do you think that it's unfair to ask him to do the same thing offensively? Because I think the reason that he's more defensive is the system has changed and he's not allowed to get into the positions he's previously got into. I'm not going to say like I'm Trent's number one fan, but I will say that I think that's being a little bit harsh to like ask him to be as good defensively as he has been while also providing the exact same that he's given us offensively, which is probably the reason that he literally hasn't been good defensively, is because he's too far up in previous seasons. So like it's having your cake and eating it too. Now that does not include his attitude, which I am 100% on board. I think his attitude has been piss poor in a lot of games, but I think his play, I think that's a little harsh.
I'm by that. Like I said, it's nitpicky in a season where it's hard to kind of choose a guy, but for the sake of our content, for the sake of getting that 1K subscriber, right, the 1,000 subscriber, I feel like it's a good conversation to have as well. That whole thing with the Arsenal game just rubbed me the wrong way. It just really rubbed me the wrong way because I was having a bad weekend that weekend, and then Trent just shows up not giving a fuck. One of our biggest games of the season. It just pissed me off. But Gordo, excellent points though. Like I'm not gonna dispute anything you said, which is why I'm waiting for Tim here, who's just like,
yeah, I'll dispute it. I mean, okay, because I'm not.
You want 1,000 subscribers? Fuck you.
No, okay, here's my thing. I wasn't even gonna say Trent, actually. I was gonna say Szoboszlai because I felt like I had higher expectations out of him compared to Trent. Because I know what we were getting from Trent. I don't know if that sounds fair. I've always been kind of like critical of Trent. So I was like, this is what you get. Hopefully the right center back has a great season, which luckily he is in Konate. We talked about them earlier. So that's what I was going to go Szoboszlai, actually. But I agree with Trent in this sense. He has been I think he's been better defensively, but that's basically because he's not asked to be bombing all the time. So he can kind of stay back there and stuff. So partially that, I think 1v1, he has been better. He has not fallen asleep as much, but I think the system has not given him a lot of those times where he, there's people running at us and he doesn't follow the runner or something like that. I just don't, there's not a lot of those scenarios, right? Like it just does not happen as much because of the way we're set up. I don't care about his, I don't like slate him because of his lack of his offensive contribution and like all that stuff. I don't care. I mean, if he gives you whatever slots asked of him, I understand that. What gets to me is in a system where we're talking about, keeping the ball and all that kind of stuff, how many balls he just gives away still doing his own thing. I think that's the part that gets to me the most, because he's still that guy that's, is trying to get those attacking offensive numbers or whatever. But the system doesn't allow it. So he's like, hold on, maybe I'll just whip it from back here, kind of a deal. It's like, stop doing these stupid diagonals, because they're not, this year they have not been as successful. I mean, Van Dijk does those diagonals all the time. It's part of the thing, right? So he does the diagonals as well. If you guys have noticed, I mean, the success rate is really low compared to the normal trend. So you can say in terms of that, he has been a lot more disappointing. Like there are times I always put him above like Bradley, because there were times, especially in the preseason, I talked about this, where we would put Bradley in a situation where he would be able to cross the ball in. but his cross would not be. I was like, if Trent is in that situation, that's a goal.
Mhm.
Not this year. I don't know why, but not this year. Even when in those situations, the balls he puts in, overall, his passing quality has not been what it used to be. But having said that, I don't really like. If I said disappointing, I would probably say Szoboszlai in terms of performance, just because I thought we would get more, and I think Slot himself even said he thought he would get more in terms of final numbers. He does a lot off the ball. I just was hoping, he would do more attacking wise, but like you're saying, and you brought this negativity upon us, John, that it is kind of nitpicking to
Right.
because even like those two names, I feel like they're having
they're still good.
seasons.
They're still having decent seasons. And on the flip side, kind of being on Trent's corner, he's only known one manager his whole life. Right, so the habits of him under that manager might be a bit harder to like. I know it's professional footballer, right? You only have to do one thing, which is kick a ball around it and ensure that you do it in the highest standard you can. But then the fact that he's still spraying out those diagonals screams to me. I'm like, oh, he still feels like he's playing under the big German over there on the sideline at times. He forgets. It's just human nature. And again, for someone who was harsh to him, this is me kind of backtracking here, maybe trying to understand, right? Again, you said I'm bringing negativity. That's not my intention, man. Now I'm just kind of...
Okay, salty. I don't know. I'm not buying that. Like, and I've been saying this for the last 2-3 weeks. If Nunez understands how the hell we're playing, there's no reason why Trent doesn't understand how we're playing. And that's where I rest my case. You see Nunez kind of keeping the ball, circulating it and stuff like that. Cycling it, keeping position. And then like he drops it off to Trent. Trent is like, let's give this a whirl, see if it happens. And then I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that's not what we're doing anymore. I don't know, Gordo. Like, I don't buy that. I know what John is saying, and he's trying to backtrack it from his saltiness earlier, but I'm just not buying that. This is not like, he's going out there like 13 days. He went out there and did something. There are fucking meetings every goddamn week talking about how we play, what we should do, watching tape and stuff like that. So there's no reason for him to still go out there and be like, let me give this diagonal a whirl. And, maybe the diagonal is part of the thing. He's just not successful.
Yeah, he's not executing it. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just like John
Gordo is really not. Gordo is very soft on the Trent. Gordo is like, Finn wishes he was Trent.
I just like, I don't know, like look at the other side. Now, I will say before I call him out that his the substitution cameo that he made for Leverkusen, which his tackle led to a goal, and then his display at the weekend was much better. But personally, for me, the most disappointing in terms of like what we know he could do and what we've seen has been Robertson. He's been
that's a good point.
It could be legs because he did have a really good game at the weekend. That's the best I've seen him so far this season. But like he was pretty piss poor. I love the guy. Like when we were talking on Friday, just there's something about a blue collar guy that totally takes this city under his wing and he's like, oh, maybe a Greek scout. But when Kostas Tsimikas is chosen over you as like a Champions League winner, like your season's not going very well, I don't think so. I think that's would be the only reason why I choose. Also,
Van Dijk does diagonals to Salah, so that helps. And look, and it's not like because he's doing a diagonal and like Diaz is shitting his pants over there, the ball is not getting there. I guess that's the concern. It always gets caught like somewhere in the middle. And some of them are going so low because you know how he does that pass where he kind of goes above the ball. So it's kind of like almost like curling down. But those balls are getting cut off right in the center midfield. And those are the few times that we give up dangerous and we're outnumbered is when we give away those balls. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry. You were about to say something.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask because you brought up Szoboszlai. Do you feel like obviously it's not his place? Like he hasn't nailed down that advanced 8 role yet, but do you guys think Curtis Jones has done enough as well to nail that role? Like where are you on that like kind of balance there? Like if you were going to put it like measure it to 100%, right? Are you like 50-50 or like 50-50 for supposed to like
we're making a pie.
Right, we're making a pie chart. Like where are you guys at there? Because I've talked about it with my friend as well. He said like, whenever I watch Liverpool, he's an Arsenal fan. Whenever I watch a Liverpool game, it's either Szoboszlai or Curtis there, and they always come up with a good performance. I was like, oh, you don't watch Liverpool enough. But then he makes a good point where at any given time, right, you can put either one of those guys, and then you can rely on them, I guess. So I guess it might be a matter of preference, but who do you guys got like this early in the season as your first choice in that advanced state role? For the record, I'm gonna say Curtis a little bit because in terms of like his passing, the line breaking passing, and his overall contribution to that led to actual goals, I would say Curtis. Like pass against Leverkusen, his impact against Chelsea, all that. Like obviously those are just 2 games in isolation, but those are the ones that get remembered, and those are the big games that we played this year. So I would say I'm slightly leaning towards Curtis.
Gordo.
So when we talked about this a little Friday with Anon when I super subbed in for the Friday show about like who we'd choose, and I said, from bigger games, I think Szoboszlai offers you more. He's a bigger body. I feel like he wouldn't get bossed around in the midfield as much, and he's also plays a little bit more defensively. I feel like than Jones is. I feel like every once in a while we are always like Jones, why he like drifts forward. He wants to take the shot. He's interested in getting in the attack. So I would feel more defensively comfortable in a big game situation with Szoboszlai. But that was before, and I really felt that he was going to start the game at Villa. Or against Villa, not at Villa. And when we saw Jones had a really good game at the weekend as well. So I don't know. I think it's starting to change, and this is obviously a manager that isn't the same as Jurgen Klopp in the sense that when we've talked about it so many times, it just like shoves the system down other teams' throats. Slot seems to be the guy that's rewarding performances, which I definitely like. And right now, Jones is giving you the better performances. Jones is going to get the start, and he's going to play more minutes until that changes. Like Konate, for example, right? Like at first game of the season, starts on the bench, totally changes that Ipswich game, secures the place. And until we see a performance like that off the bench from Szoboszlai, I think he's just going to be used as utility for right now. And same thing with Robertson. Came off the bench, played really good against Leverkusen, set up an assist. Then we saw him in a bigger game against Villa at the weekend. So I think it's just you gotta prove yourself to slot.
So this is, I think we miss Szoboszlai more when he doesn't play. I think you miss that physicality. Honestly, until this last Villa game, I thought a name we didn't mention in terms of maybe underperforming or not being as good as they normally are is probably McAllister, actually. Physically, he looks tired and not, that gets beaten a lot more. I mean, he gets beaten literally as well, mind you, like with the fouls and stuff like that. But I thought until this last game, actually, Curtis is better served in that role, not the advanced role that Szoboszlai has. I do think, though, there have been a couple of games. I agree with Sergi over here that Szoboszlai, we've missed his physicality. I think was that the Arsenal game he came in and we kind of like started getting like, a bigger body. He's a bigger body. He's faster. So he can do some of those things in midfield and give you some physicality. It's one of those, going back to what Gordo was saying, I think not only it's like rewarding performances, I think he kind of sets them up to succeed in some sense where we play the matchups. Kind of like when we did Diaz as number 9 instead of maybe like putting their Nunez number 9 because he's the only number 9. You know what I mean? So I think he kind of will do that if he feels like against Newcastle, when Joelinton is running around in there and Guimaraes and stuff like that, I think he would play Szoboszlai. He would play somebody more physical. But maybe when we're home and we're going to have the ball and stuff like that, you put Curtis Jones over there. I think it's just more of a matchup thing. But the reason I think Szoboszlai disappointing is you would think Szoboszlai overall is a better player and maybe has more traits in terms of like size and speed and stuff compared to Jones. So you would expect more productivity in that sense going forward. Has not been there yet, but that's not to say he's played poorly over here. But speaking of Sergi, we all know what Mateusz is capable of. When called, when asked for duty, he always delivers. And there we go.
I love how it's like classical, like medieval English as well. Like, where art thou, Sadio?
Poor Sergi. He didn't think he was going to be exposed to this morning, but Mateusz is having way too much fun this morning with. I mean, if you want all like people are going, he's so like I don't know what's the word for it, but people are going to him to pull up dirt on people. Like, hey, can you pull the receipts about when this guy said this?
Receipts.
Matusha's our FBI. Like if you got something right, like he's got some dirt on you. Like remember that time, Tim, where he made the image of you putting a medal on yourself? That was, that was like the greatest, the best American Scouser host.
Yes, he's a jerk. I remember. Oh God, I give him so much shit on Monday. He deserves to take occasional shots. I feel you saw it on Monday, but you were of course there on Monday, praising him, making him like the best thing ever. So now I gotta slam him down for a month straight to put him back to where he was. Because you were like, "Oh, Matish makes a good point. Matish is right."
He was just setting me up, man. He threw the ball up in the air. I gotta dunk it down, man. This is setting me up for an alley-oop. It's a good point.
So international break. I mean, is it just me, Gordo? Like, there's nobody. I'm gonna look at the international teams games just to see who's playing because some people are legit injured. You can kind of tell some people who came back and played for their team. So obviously they're in good shape, right? Because why would you risk your guy then? Throw them out there for their starting 11, like Saka and stuff like that, Odegaard and stuff like that. So obviously they're healthy enough to go out there and play for their club. But they're not, they need to recover. They're not that good where they're going to go away to the national team. And those are not the only ones. I mean, City has a bunch of players. I don't know if we do. I have not. I mean, Trent is injured. I don't think there's a player that we said, man, you should probably stay. Because otherwise, I would say McAllister, you should probably have a back pain or something like that where you don't have to go. But, I mean, is this just watering down these international games even worse? Like, nobody's going.
Once a month, especially after a summer tournament, is ridiculous. There was 8 players for England that pulled out of the national team. 8 players. That's insane to think about.
But that's a starting 11.
They're all injured, right? And my favorite thing about this international break has been Man United has been kind of silent on their Twitter account for various reasons. So for like, patting themselves on the back, but they were like, this international break, 15 of our players are going to the international games. It's like, yeah, because everyone else that's actually on those teams aren't going. Like, you guys are the bench warmers.
When you said those 8 guys, I saw that, and then they're like, oh, so on. Are you like, if we're one of those 8 players, are you really like, oh, I got called up to the national squad, Gordo, or are you like, oh, great, because I'm available? It's almost
I would be that. I would be more of that.
Right. And then it's like basically your mom tweeting like, my son's going to international.
Right. It's like Make-A-Wish international.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? Like,
Mom, this is my only shot, okay?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I feel like, John, it's just like makes these. I mean, I'll watch Turkey. I think they play on Saturday because we do the pod with my brother afterwards and stuff. Right. So I will have to watch, I guess, and I'll watch to see who's playing. But it just feels, and they're making a run for it. They're playing Wales at home. I think even a draw is most like enough or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just feels like already a stupid tournament, kind of, which has a backdoor to qualify for World Cup and all that shit. I get it, but it's just like makes it even more watered down and useless now that teams are doing this.
And that makes it more painful when one of our guys actually fucking goes down. Like, imagine, like, I don't know, like, and I saw this tweet at the end of the game, right? At the end of the Villa game where things are too good right now. If you're a Liverpool fan, like some absolute BS is bound to happen, right? Like I don't want to speak into fucking existence.
What is wrong with you?
But then, like, I don't know, like I'm feeling, which is why I'll get shameless plug. I put up a piece like on the website that go like, hey, we just gotta calm down here a little bit, just cautious optimism, because this is basically the same squad from last time, and what derailed our title challenge last year was multiple injuries on multiple fronts. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm really happy right now, but like just very cautiously happy because listen, Gravenberch or McAllister, either one just gets something like not even serious, like minor, gets them out for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. You could be barely treading water, right? Like those two are so critical to what we do. It's just
yeah.
Well, that's why
I don't know. Not Ozzy. He's already sitting in a fucking. I was saying Monday, but he's already sitting in the bus for the parade, waiting. He's like, where are we going? Where are we going? He's just like sitting there waiting for it to take off. I'm the same way. Yeah, Jinxie John is back.
First of all, I was quoting the tweet, so I don't got. I'm not.
We don't know. January 1st, we could have another COVID, and then we win by 23 points, and we don't get the bus. And Kazi is literally by himself on a bus in the middle of the city.
Imagine we're like 18 points clear as well, and then World War III starts somewhere. Like I would just quit football, man. Like at this point, it's getting ridiculous.
So, are we more optimistic, or Gordo? Are you more optimistic because? Yes, negative Nancy. I like that better than Jinxie Jab. He's just salty. He's just like, he's just
blame Tim, man. Blame Tim more and more. Give me the link for the freaking hat. If you guys think that I'm so like giving bad vibes this morning, blame Timuchin for not sending me the link for the hat he's wearing. God damn.
Yeah, he's been looking to buy this hat for the longest time, and I haven't set it up. And to rub it in every Wednesday, I make sure to wear this hat. This morning, I literally was like, which one? I'm like, oh, I'm wearing this because John is there. But no, are we more optimistic because we feel, right or wrong, we won't know till January, February or whatever, right, Gordo? That the way we're playing and we're not all like crazy running and stuff like that, that we will have legs come January, February that we did not have in the past seasons because we don't know. But are we just like, is that what's giving everybody optimism? Because I don't think everybody was as optimistic if this happened this time last year where we were up by 5 points. People are like, oh, we're not going to collapse this year because of this. But we're just speculating that.
I mean, hindsight's 20/20 about that, right? But about like last season. Yeah, I guess it's more optimistic. It seems like the system is more suited for rest and recovery than it previously was. I still hesitate to get excited, like, fully on board of the parade in May, because like I
still, a nuclear wasteland. Sorry,
I'm more worried about. Yeah, I'm more worried about
that. What's wrong with it? I'll give you the hats. Shut up.
No, it's just like people are like, maybe we didn't need to sign anybody. Like we're 11 games into the league season, right? Like and like John said, there's still so much that can go wrong, and there's still just this little part of me that like by March we're gonna be like, I knew we should have fucking signed somebody because. Now we're out 4 positions or whatever. So I have a little bit, I think I've tempered. I think one thing too is like doing the other podcast where like we cover all the teams. I sometimes look at stuff like this from the eyes of everyone else, right? Is like if City were in this position, do you think we would give up and be like, season's over, we're done? Like City is definitely going to be, win the league. I don't think we would. I think we'd be like, it's only 5 points. Like we can catch them. It's not, there's so much to play still. And so sometimes I think you need to temper down just a little bit because I don't think the rest of the league is handing you any trophies.
See, I think I would be like, man, it's going to be tough, especially if it was City and it's the regular City. I think more than anything else, it's like when we look at those guys, I mean, like this is like kind of like what Kazi is saying here. You're seeing the games. It's not like they're not bulldozing over people. Yeah. Like I said this weekend, I was looking at the scores and I saw them up against Brighton. And in the past, when you saw them go up, especially early in the game, you were like, "Fuck, they're not losing points."
Right. Save you a lot of time, right? Save you a lot of time.
But they are leaking goals constantly. So they are. I mean, that game. You look at their game against Brighton and our game against Villa. They are very, very similar. Where Haaland gets the goal, Nunez gets the goal because Nunez is just like Haaland. And then both of them miss multiple chances to put the game away and make it 2-0. The difference is we don't leak the goals and we eventually get a second to finish it off, whereas they do leak the goals and they fall behind 2-1. And I think that's one thing we have. The fact that we're not conceding a lot is always a plus. But I go with this. I think, I was asking and we'll do the panel show and we'll ask Arsenal and stuff like that as well. Because I think if I was in Arsenal shoes now, I would be like, there's no way this season. I will go for the top 4 slots first season and stuff. We'll start doing damage control already. But if we beat City, I can see people saying
it's over.
It's over. Because now you're talking 8 points, and then you're talking at least 12 points with Arsenal. I would think, I guess still could be 9, but like 8 and 9 points ahead. I think we would say this is pretty much like, I mean, you wouldn't say it's over and done, but you would feel a lot more confidence in terms of, and a lot less pressure on the team, right? Like, because you can go out there, even if it's a draw, you can afford like 3-4 hiccups along the way. That helps the team's mindset a lot. We have a better spread of goals and not relying on one player. That's another plus. And yeah, when did, by the way, Arteta become Sean Douche? And they're literally like trying to get set pieces, and they're trying to score for it. Like literally takes them 3 minutes to do a free kick from the right side because that's their chance to score, kind of a thing. I'm like, Jesus
It's
Christ.
weird. Like, I never would peg Arteta and his final form to be a mostly conservative team with three defensive midfielders. And like, listen, they've got some players who can create and like go toe to toe with someone in a free scoring game. I'm just surprised. And I actually wanted to bring this up because I put on my, again, shameless plug on the piece that it's probably a certainty that whoever wins the league this time probably won't need 90 points. 90 or so points. Do you guys think that there's truth to that? Or I'm just talking out of my ass, as always.
The points are being spread. Where's I'm gonna say where's the image that I shared? But there was a link as a BBC.
Oh yeah,
link.
yeah. On the
There was a photo inside their chart.
How about this for now? Which one is I'll leave this for now while I look for the other one.
It just shows how close it's like 4 points from 3rd to 15th or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I know it was specifically Man United. It's like the article is just trying to like desperately wanting Man United to be in the race. By the way,
So I think there's more points to go around in the terms that more teams are picking up more points, and it's going to be harder to amass anything more than 90 because people are taking points off of everybody. Whereas like there was an argument last year that at the end of the year that like, where did 40 points go? Like you needed 40 to be secure, and now it's like, oh, like what? Who was it that finished 16th that had like 32 points last year? So like
Everton probably.
Right, yeah.
This year is a lot. The parity is. It feels like a lot closer now. Again, we are just week 11 in, but I agree with John. I think that it's the parity of the league is becoming a little more. The lines are being blurred.
Is it parity, or is it because like the top teams are not as good as they normally are? So they keep like we were talking about City earlier. Like if City went up in the past, that was a game over.
Right.
Whereas now the door is open. And I think one thing that I like is, seeing City and Arsenal in these situations where they give up leads. Because then I feel like the team who's playing them in the past, when City scored on you, you would be like, well, this shit is over. And then, brace yourself to get not 4-5 or something like that. Now they're like, hey, we just got to keep going because we can get eventually goals on these guys, kind of a thing. And that makes people kind of stay in the game a lot longer, and the game is not over once Haaland scores the first goal or something like that. I mean, do you put that as the teams on the bottom getting better, John, or the teams on top not being as dominant?
I can only speak for the teams on the top because those are the ones that I watch more frequently than the teams on the bottom. So I would say it's the teams on the top getting worse. Obviously, City without Rodri, like, listen, I know it's not sustainable to want to rely on one player, but he's that good a player. Where it's kind of like the Kelleher-Allison thing where, like the backup is good, but then there are some superhuman feats that he can't pull off because you're so used to the original guy. So I feel like with City, it's kind of like the same thing. Like they can't be as secure with the way that they play because that one dude who can cover up every single hole is not there. So I would say that Arsenal as well has been missing Odegaard. They've missed Saliba for some time. So I feel like it's more of the top not being as good. We're actually the only team, right? And probably Chelsea that's probably better, right? Than at this point last year in terms of like the top 4, right? I would say. Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the reason could be because of all these. I think we're seeing that these international games and stuff like that obviously affect the teams up top a lot more Champions League games, a lot more team games on top and stuff like that. I think it affects those top teams who are sending people constantly to these. Well, not anymore. I guess Arsenal has decided they're not sending anybody in City. But Ravi says we need to concentrate on Liverpool as fans. We have to worry about. We can't worry about and be like, what if Arsenal, City, Chelsea? We can only focus on ourselves, which I do agree. But I think in terms of I don't know, it affects how confident or optimistic I am when you look at what you're going up against.
Put it this way. So I just looked up the tables from last year, match week 11. We were 3 points off of City, match week 11, in second place. By the week 16, we were ahead of City in first place with 37 points. City was in fourth with 33. So they were 4 behind us. And then obviously end of the year, we saw how that went. So all I'm saying is, we've been in situations even deeper in the league with this amount of points. And
True.
I'm not, like John said, I'm very happy. I am celebrating every game. I'm jumping off the seats, but I'm not thinking about May just yet. I've seen too many times City go from January to May without losing, let alone tying, let alone losing.
The big caveat there, though, Gordo, is that no Rodri this time around, right?
Yeah.
It's massive. That's massive.
I think, and that's why it makes a little bit of difference. I just don't see, Ravi says, like, like in the general sense, and I agree, but at the same time, you got to figure, I don't see either of these teams. Shit, I don't see even ourselves at some, in a certain sense, even though we have been doing it, but long may it continue. I'll stay my pessimistic self, but I don't see either of those two squads going on a run like City normally does, like 16 games in a row, 14 games in a row and stuff. I feel like there are too many holes in there. But like a long season, a lot can change. Here, let's do the shameless plug over here. This is the article that John wrote over here when he was like smacking around interns in the office in the background. It's on the website right now. It's like latest one we published for the Cautious Optimism. And I think I agree for it mostly because I have rubbed off on you over time. I mean, it's definitely, you got to enjoy the good times. Maybe not sit in the parade bus and waiting for it to take off like Ozzy, but you got to be able to kind of enjoy the good times, but not get carried away.
On that note, Tim, like obviously we're ending the show and we always do on a prediction, right? What is the number that we have to get in terms of points to get the league?
I think you win it at 90. You get 90 points.
Surely win it at 90.
100. I think this year you get to 90. That 100% you win the league. Last year,
I told you guys about doing math in the morning, didn't I?
City won it at 91 points last year. I think Villa had under 70 and they finished fourth. So, in my opinion, 90 is
sure.
100% you win the league at 90 points.
I think my 100% is 86.
I was gonna go like around like 88, 87 myself, because even last year 89 was enough, and we're saying nobody's as dominant as last year. And I know we keep saying it's early and stuff, but shit, I mean, it's the 11th week. I mean, we're almost like a third of the way in. But I like this. Let's stay the course of saying like it's still early, because everybody did this, including ourselves, before the last international break. We were like, let's get to these tough fixtures in November and see, like the end of October, November. Well, we did those. Now everybody's saying, well, let's take a look at the City game and stuff like that. So one more batch like this, I think you can kind of get really ahead of everybody like that. The goal difference, I don't know if the goal difference will be as big of a factor this year, but you got to figure us conceding a lot less has to help the cause in that sense, right? But at the same time, we're not really going and scoring in bunches either. There's a lot of 1-0s. I mean, the slot special has been 2-0 for the most part. Is like probably like the score we've had the most is probably 2-0. Time to put your money down, guys, says Alan. Okay, so we got to come up with a number. How many points do you need? You say 90, Gordo?
100. Well, yeah, but that's like, that's me saying like 155 points.
Well, yeah, exactly.
100%. That's 60% of the time, 100% of the time.
He says, I think we get 98 points this season. Man, what is happening in California this morning?
Give me what you're having, Cersei. We need it here over in the Northeast.
I know it's legal over there, but Jesus, it's legal over here too.
I still think, I think that if we continue this way, then we win the league comfortably. But I still do think that like it's not 100% in the bag mathematically until 90 points.
That's fair. Can we hold the way like I mean, I don't know, man. Let's see. Yeah, see, it's early morning. I don't know if he's drinking, smoking, but he's happy. You know who's not happy and salty is freaking John over here. But so I'm gonna get him a hat, so he'll be happy. But we'll wrap it up. We can go all day. I mean, I can just bring up international breaks and everybody will disappear. So let's do that. Enjoy the international games. Whoever is going to end up going there and playing and stuff like that. Like I say, I will watch Turkey, but the boys will be back tomorrow night for the podcast, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. I don't think we had the Fantasy Boys this week since there are no games. But then obviously I'll be back Friday morning with Kazi, probably broadcasting live from the parade bus sitting in the back. And then
if you're not on the parade route by Friday.
And then Onan, who will like give us defense for like Soboslai and Nunez over here. But hey, have a great week, everybody. Enjoy the time off and international games, I guess. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Take care.